Everybody here tonight, please be seated. All right, I'd like to first thank everybody for attending tonight to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. This is the teacher certification course. We've got plenty of people here in the auditorium tonight and plenty online. I see the monitor must not be working up here. But we are continuing on in the Peaceful Solution Building Moral Excellence character unit. And I've got my teacher's manual with me. If any of you need a book, most of you I see in the auditorium do have a book online. If you need one, you can go to the drop-down menu, whether you be on the phone or laptop or what have you, and you can drop it down and also follow along in the book with us too. So, feel free to do that. You can even print this stuff out as long as you don't change anything. The peaceful solution is the peaceful solution. You can't water it down. And one of the things that we do here in the peaceful solution, and this, we've learned this over a long time of experience and working with schools, governments, all type of situations, that you can't just look through the book and pick out something and say, oh, this is how I want to be. This is what I'm going to do, and just forget the rest of it. You've got to start at the beginning and learn what character is and then follow each step along the way. It builds upon itself. And that's how we've gotten to the point where we are now. Most of you folks that are here in the auditorium and some of you online, I know, have been following along for years in working with learning the peaceful solution and also putting it to work in your life. And that's what you have to do. That's really the way you learn it, is to put it to work in your life, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. By the way, our next class is going to be on Sunday at 5:30 p.m. That's possible that I might be teaching the class too, but it'll be this coming Sunday at 5:30 p.m. We'll get the date for you there. Let's go ahead and turn on over to Lesson Plan 4, page, I'll tell you in a minute. Lesson Plan 4, page H. And this is procedure number 11. Now, Educaton had an interesting class last time. I mean, all of them are interesting, but Educaton had one showing some pictures of some of the people that, are they a leader? Are they not a leader, or what? Different people. How can you tell if they're a leader just by looking at them? That's what I was thinking while I was looking at those pictures. But we're going to go through a little bit over what we've learned in this past chapter. We might bust off into a few other areas too as we're talking about it and show how each aspect of the peaceful solution builds upon the other one and continues on. But let's look at procedure number 11 on Lesson Plan 4, page H for now. It says to explain that they too, the students, can make improvements in the world around them by using their leadership skills learned from the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program. And then we'll want to conclude the lesson by having students turn to page 171 and read the section entitled, What I Have Learned. And then we'll re-emphasize that leadership is an integral part of building and maintaining a positive character. And you might think, well, I'm not a leader. I'm not like the boss at work or anything, or I'm not running for any government office or nothing like that. I'm no leader. But we are. If you're learning the peaceful solution and you're putting it to work in your life, by all means you are a leader, because you are setting the example for those around you to learn by your example. Even if they don't have a peaceful solution character education book, to go by, even if they know nothing about it, when they see your actions, they see how you conduct yourself, they look at your reputation and what you're all about, then they're already learning something about the peaceful solution. They don't know it yet, and it's not something that they could go and tell you, oh yeah, on page 5 I learned this. They don't know anything about it, but they can look and say, this is what I learned from that man over there or that woman over there. This is what I learned from the way that they conduct themselves. I've seen the peace in their life, And this is what it's all about, is when you can do that. When people come to you and ask advice on, hey, how do you remain calm in this situation? They might not even know you know anything about the peaceful solution. They never even heard of it, but they might come and ask you because of what they see coming forth from you, you know? So let's go on over to page 171. And this is what I've learned, and Catan covered the first point last week. It was leaders can be found in all, or last class, leaders can be found in all areas of life and responsible for those who look to them for guidance and direction. And we're going to move on to point number 2. This is the deciding factor between a positive leader and a negative one is character. That's the deciding factor. Positive character based on true moral values and personality combined with specific skills, drive, and ambition will result in positive leadership. Now, specific skills, of course, you've got to have skills when doing anything. I mean, even if when you drive your car, you have to, it's a skill that you acquire over time, that you develop. You don't just go out there and jump in the car and start driving like a superstar. You know, it doesn't work like a race car driver or something. It doesn't work like that. And drive, you know, having a reason to do what you're doing, and then the ambition. And don't get that word wrong. There's nothing wrong with having ambition. You know, ambition, wanting to do the best that you can do, wanting to be an example towards others. What is your ambition? What's your ambition? You know, it can have a negative connotation when you think about it, and you think about someone being ambitious and doing everything they can do to get ahead, no matter whose toes they step on, no matter who they hurt, no matter what dastardly deeds they do. They're so ambitious, they want to get to the top and they want to get there now, you know. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about having true moral values and putting all these things together that will result in you becoming a positive leader, a positive person in society. All right. Turn over to, if you will, excuse me, to page 148. And on page 148, the title on that page is the deciding factor, excuse me. All right. Although there are many different types of leaders, they can basically be placed into 2 categories, positive or negative. The deciding factor, of course, is character. Although most people consider leadership as external, in that it involves decisions about others, you know, leadership actually begins internally by first learning to lead oneself. Maintaining a positive character by using self-control, consistency, and discipline promotes self-leadership. Boy, look at those words right there. Self-control, consistency, discipline. Oh my. Those are big words, aren't they? But with the peaceful solution, you can achieve these things. The individual who demonstrates self-leadership will be a positive leader. Positive leaders are people of integrity. They are moral and encourage those who look to them for guidance and direction to also be moral and to respect all life. And that's one of the main tenets of the peaceful solution, is respect for all life. You can't take any one thing out and set it aside and say, here, if you do this, then it's all going to work for you. Because most people would think, oh, well, as long as you show respect to everybody and everything, you'll be okay. Well, that's part of it. But you have to first learn to show respect to yourself. And to show respect to yourself, you've got to have all these other things that were just mentioned, the self-control, consistency, discipline. You know, you have to have all these things. All right, so, and respecting all life is really, truly all life. Respecting all things, all life, all animal life, all plant life, all everything, okay? So these people, they motivate and inspire others to continually find ways to improve themselves and their environment. In addition, they set goals that are beneficial and advantageous and encourage others to do the same. And no, they don't walk around all day saying, hey man, did you set your goals today? Hey, did you set your goals today? Hey, did you forget? You need to go set your goals, you know. It's not like that. encouraging people to do the right thing, encouraging people to, if they're having a problem, you say, well, you can determine in your mind to do it this way next time, and have encouraging words from the peaceful solution. Don't sound like a robot. Don't sound like the book. This is real life. This is true life. You put it to work in your life. We aren't robots. We're not all exactly the same. It just doesn't work that way. We all drive different cars. We wear different clothes. We speak differently. We eat differently. Everything is different about us. It would be a boring world if it were any different than that. Okay, the following is a list of character traits that defines a positive leader. Now, not that you haven't seen some of these things before and heard them, but let's look at the word moral. Moral. A positive leader acts in strict regard for what is right and proper behavior. That means they don't let their guard down. If they do, none of us are perfect yet. Remember, when we're talking about this, we're all working towards improving our lives and others around us. And we are going to make mistakes. Occasionally, we're going to make a bad choice. I mean, that's just kind of how it is, all right? So don't thump yourself too hard. You hear me say this almost every class, You have to leave yourself, what is it? Room to grow, right? You got to leave yourself some room to grow. That's not an excuse. It's not don't pile the excuses on. It just means that you're going to determine in your mind to do it right the next time and be better at it, okay? But you have strict regard for what's right and proper. Humble. A positive leader accepts that he or she does not know everything. They're open to suggestions. If they make a mistake in judgment, they accept responsibility for their actions and learn from their mistakes. Now, let me share something with you. I know a supervisor that was working with a group of people, trying to get them to understand how to work together. They were all kind of, bunch of ruffians, I guess you'd say. He threw them all together there and arguing and fussing and everything, but they had gotten to where they could somewhat work together. And he had been working with them a long time. So he put them together and he gave them some tasks to do that were, a little bit tough. In fact, it's even possible that they could have gone and rented a piece of equipment and done it even cheaper, for less expense and less time and everything, and really been able to look at the finished product and stand back and say, look at that we did, But that's not what he wanted. He wasn't so worried. Yes, he wanted the job finished, of course, and he did want it done right, of course. But more even than that is that he wanted these men to learn to work together towards a goal, not to argue and fight, or if they did argue, to make up and apologize and get back to work and work together to get the job done, right? And it probably took 3 times as long doing it his way that time. Now, being humble, a positive leader. Now, if someone came to this man during that time and said, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been a painter or, cement contractor or drywall contractor or mechanic or whatever. I've been this a long time, and, really there's a better way to do this. You're really wasting your time and everything. Now, should that leader, should that supervisor, should he, just back up and say, you know what, you're right. I need to be humble and listen to you. No, that's not what we're talking about. The supervisor knows what he's doing. And you can always have a suggestion for your supervisor. It doesn't mean that they're going to do it. You might not have all the information necessary. So you can't step back and look and judge and say, oh, that guy's proud and arrogant. He wouldn't even listen to what I said. Why, we could have this done in half the time. You know what I mean? So you don't always know what's going on. But a positive leader accepts that he or she does not know everything, and they're open to suggestions if it fits within what they're trying to accomplish, their goal. And if they make a mistake in judgment, they accept the responsibility for their actions and learn from their mistakes. Now, being respectful. A positive leader will not use his or her position to disregard the needs of others. Being decisive, a positive leader will decide upon a right course of action and then remain firm in that decision. Optimistic. A positive leader is able to spur others on even in the face of adversity because of an optimistic attitude. You know, that's not the attitude of, oh, you know what you do? I heard it's going to rain, but I don't believe it. I don't care. You guys get out there and work on that electrical wire. You know, not that kind of optimism, okay? That's stupidity. Being determined. A positive leader puts forth genuine effort to accomplish a task once it's been decided upon. Being flexible. A positive leader is willing to adapt to new ideas once he or she is determined that they are beneficial. And being compassionate and considerate. A positive leader shows concern for the health and well-being of others. Being patient. A positive leader remains steadfast despite opposition, and he or she handles provocation, setbacks, and disappointments calmly, reasonably, and with emotional maturity. All right, so there we go. That's the deciding factor. It's character. That's the deciding factor on what makes a leader positive or negative, okay? And, of course, on the next page, on page 149, it says, on the other hand, then it says negative character will result in negative leadership. And negative leaders are often self-centered, inconsiderate of the needs of others, and so forth, which we've already been over a lot of this, too. We've seen video clips and pictures and articles on negative leaders from Hitler and Mussolini and many others. You know, we've had examples, historical examples that we could look back on and see. Now, not all the time did the people that were following these leaders, they didn't always know that what they were getting into and what they were being a part of and the negativity that was taking place. They were just following. So you see how a leader can impact a whole society. In fact, the entire world. I mean, and we're going to talk a little bit about that too. But some of the things with a negative leader is they're selfish, rigid, immoral, deceitful. They use beguiling personality traits to mislead their followers. You know, they're con artists. They're inconsiderate. They show no concern towards others. They're hateful and revengeful and unremorseful. That's a negative leader, all right? A leader with negative character. Okay, let's go on back over to, well, before we do that, go to page 158. Before we go back over to page 171 and go to the next point, let's look at something. On page 158, the skills of leadership. Now, at the top, it says a positive leader is able to communicate in a manner that is sincere, appropriate, and respectful. And is that like, all the time? Well, over a period of time, it gets more consistent until, yes, hopefully it gets to that point. But people will make mistakes. You got to remember that. You can't judge somebody just by one mistake that they made. The skills of leadership. Having the right combination of positive character and personality traits is only part of being an effective leader. Another important aspect involves having specific skills that will improve your interactions and will motivate and encourage others, okay? So we talked about this a little bit in the last few classes too, about communicating effectively. Communicating effectively, just briefly here, it says, have you ever tried to communicate without saying anything, like when you're playing charades? And it goes on to say, communication is the foundation of interaction, and it can be defined as the process by which information is exchanged between two individuals. There are different ways to communicate. There's written, there's verbal, there's nowadays, we have texting with emojis and all types of fancy things you can do with your screen on your phone and so forth to try to communicate excitement or fear or dread or that you're extremely angry or outrage even. You can pretty well communicate through those emojis what you're feeling, but not necessarily to the degree. Really. if you show a smiley face on there, does the person really know how joyful you are or aren't? No, they can't see you, they can't hear you, they can't, none of that stuff. But anyway, it's just part of it. It's just a new thing. It's another tool. Tone of voice. Okay, remember, tone of voice. By our tone of voice, we can tell a lot about what's being said. It's part of communication. Facial expressions, body language, all of these things add up to that. And then on the next page, on page 160, we learned that a positive leader, a great communicator, is also an active listener. They actively listen, right? Let's see. You need to learn to pay attention to someone to understand what is being said. There's the giving of information in the first paragraph there, or the second paragraph on the page, under actively listens. There's the giving of information and the receiving of information. There's both. You can't just do one. I have talked to people before, and I'm sure I've been included on that list before also, that was more intent on giving information than they were listening for information. And then the tables could be turned too. So we need to learn to have a balance, so when we're talking to somebody, it's a give and take. Or give and receive, I should say. Poor listening skills lead to poor communication, all right? We use our eyes, our ears, and our heart to hear not only the words, but to discern the intention of those words and of the actions of the total person to understand what's actually being said. And remembering these statistics, 7% is the verbal. This is how much your words make, what kind of difference your words make in communicating. 7%. Then the facial is 55%, and the tone of voice is like 38%, I think it was. And you can learn to become an active listener. You can de-escalate arguments. You can make sure a person understands and accepts what you're talking about. And you can also gain insight into what's going on with people around you too, and show that you truly care, and you can show true concern with the people. So they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you've heard that one before, right? And have the right attitude about listening. Remember, attitude really is everything. The attitude that you approach something with, that attitude, is it positive or negative? Is it the attitude of wanting to listen and wanting to understand and wanting to share? Is it the attitude of humility, that you're willing to accept things as they come your way if it fits into the goal and plan that is there? Are you willing to listen to others that have suggestions? And then, we got to learn not to interrupt. That's hard to do. You have to have self-control. You can learn more about it on page 95 in the self-control unit. But while someone's talking and you're thinking what to say, are you really listening to what's going on? You're sitting there thinking, okay, well, I want to tell this guy about this right here. And he's talking away, and you're just like in la-la land. Every now and then you catch a word, and you're more interested in what you're fixing to say to him. And, it might be that kind of conversation where someone's trying to get a word in edgewise. It's hard to sit back and listen sometimes when somebody just keeps on going and doesn't actually give a break. But that's where the patience and self-control comes in, and the care and concern. Really try to listen to what they have to say. All right. Let's go ahead and go on back over there to page 171. All right. Now, the true value in becoming a leader, remember that in becoming a leader, is not only to lead others towards specific goals, but also to gain self-assurance, to stand up for what is morally correct, even if we must stand alone. To stand up for what's morally correct, even if you must stand alone. Positive leaders are responsible, not only for those who follow, but also for themselves. So there's a lot of responsibility for leaders. They're responsible for the people around them, for themselves, and everything kind of taking place, And we can turn over to page 164 to continue on, or look back at a little bit of that. Okay. So page 164 is what leadership is not. And the reason I wanted to point out something on this page, what leadership is not. The position of office or leader, the leadership, it's a position. It means taking responsibility for yourselves and others. We just talked about it. And the tasks or goals that must be collectively accomplished. That's why you have, that's why you have someone set apart as leader. We're all leaders, once again, when we are being the example and people are following our example. We are a leader, okay? What type of leader we are and how effective of a leader we are depends upon everything that we're learning. But we're all leaders, remember that. But when you have a leader set apart, like the supervisor, the governor, this person or that person, they're set apart to be that leader. They actually have that title, and they have that office, and they have designated things that must be accomplished and so forth. Well, that's when that leader, it takes responsibility for everything going on and the tasks or goals that have to be that come together to collectively accomplish something. But however, even with the best intentions, leaders can still make mistakes, and even the very best leaders sometimes find themselves walking a thin line between what they should and should not do. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been walking a thin line between, I really ought to do this, but, and you find yourself like right on the edge? The following list can help you avoid some of the common pitfalls of leadership. And let's see. Leaders should never be bullies. Having to use force by treating someone abusively to accomplish a task is bullying, not leading. Leaders encourage and motivate through positive, respectful, meaningful communications. And then another point is leaders should never use their position to bring others down. The leader must never put a person down if they fail to achieve what they've been asked to do. You need to look and see what is the reason. What's the reason that this took place, A positive leader would encourage that person to try again or assign a different task that the person would be better suited for. You can put too much on somebody. As you're going along and you're seeing what a person is capable of, maybe you're the supervisor, and you see different things that they do well at and then some things they don't do so well at, and you encourage them to learn a little bit more about what those things are that they might not do so well at, and it just doesn't seem to go anywhere. There's no interest there. It's like it's just blank. Well, then at that point in time that person probably is not suited for that task as much as you would have liked for them to be. So then you go about finding another way to accomplish the task. Remember, you got to keep things moving. You can't just let things fall down. It's got to keep moving, okay? Leaders should never use their followers as scapegoats. Leaders are accountable for their own actions and should never blame someone else for their mistakes. Have you ever been around that person that just blames everybody else for everything? Something occurs, and as an appointed leader, like a supervisor, a plant manager, a president of the United States, whatever, as an appointed leader, when people come to you and you ask, hey, what occurred to this right there? And they say, well, this person took this or they took that, or, well, I just can't ever rely on that person to do the right thing. Maybe it's someone that works for them. Well, the sad thing about that is that normally when that's occurring, that person is showing their lack of leadership skills. Because if they've allowed that to continue on, if they've allowed their subordinate to continue on in doing something that they're not capable of doing, that they're not suited well for that task, instead of finding another way to do it, and they continue on and it causes problems, then it's their lack of supervisory skills that are at fault and nothing else, okay? But a person should always be accountable for their own actions. Now, there's excuses and there's excuses. An excuse would be, well, there's that type of excuse that would be like this, blaming someone else for something that took place. Well, so-and-so did it, or, it was raining outside. It's not my fault. It was done wrong. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. So they're trying to, get the judgment taken off of them. They're trying to get the fault taken away from them, if you will. That might be the wrong word, but they're trying to be absolved of any responsibility. They're trying to throw their responsibility out the window. But then there is the other type of, I guess you'd still call it an excuse, but it would be, what has occurred here. And then you simply give information rather than trying to absolve yourself from any responsibility. You would give the supervisor information like, the wrong part came in and we sent it back and we have another one coming tomorrow to get the job done. Something. You're not trying to get that responsibility off of you. You're saying, hey, something occurred, we have it under control, and we're moving on with this. See? So there's a difference there between what people try to do with those excuses. Does it make sense? Any of that? Okay. Clear as mud? Okay. So leaders should never be just a one-man or one-woman show. Part of being a leader is delegating. You're not there to do it all yourself. You have people there working with you to achieve that goal. And that's one of the things that a great communicator, a great leader, a great supervisor does, is they get everybody working together. Kind of like in the example I was talking about earlier. Getting people working together, it doesn't always mean that it's going to be the fastest way to get the job done. If you're trying to build unity, if you're trying to build the people caring and showing respect for one another and coming together in such tight unity, you might throw things in disarray for a minute. You might not want the fastest way. You might not want the cheapest way. You have a goal in mind and you set it up for that, and now you're letting that all come to fruition. So again, you can't be a one-man or one-woman show. People have to be able to spread out and show what they can do and show that they can come together in unity through much trial and error, but hey, that's what it's about, is learning to be in the trenches with one another. I was in the trenches with that guy, we went through this and that, and it builds this unity amongst people. All right, and leaders know that. Great leaders know that, and so they don't try to make it too easy all the time. Leaders should never break their word. Now, never is a very strong word, isn't it? Never. It says never. It doesn't say, most of the time, we know if you break your word to them because this and that occurred, No, it says you should never break your word. Leaders should make sure that they can fulfill their promises. If they are not sure, they should not promise. Otherwise, people will lose trust in them. I get asked many times there's a group that I work with, and I get asked lots of times on if we're going to do this tomorrow or that tomorrow. And in most cases, I have to leave it open because I really don't know. Sometimes I can be pretty sure that we're going to go do that thing, and if I have any control over it, we will go and do it, right? But many times, I really don't have any control over it, and we have to wait and see what it brings. So the option is there, and the hope is there that we can do such a thing, and that's what I try to leave behind, is that hope that we will be able to, and the desire to do so. And this all has an effect. Everything we're talking about right here, too, has an effect on your reputation. Now, what do you think? Should a great leader have a great reputation? Or have you ever worked for somebody? I'll use the supervisor or the plant manager or whatever, the owner of the company. Have you ever worked for somebody that had a bad reputation? That had a reputation of treating people oppressively, of not paying them on time, promising a bonus and Do you have to follow them around for 3 weeks to get paid the bonus, even though you achieved it the next day? You know, all of those things are degrading and demeaning, and they actually work against productivity and unity. Reputation. Reputation is such an important thing. You know, see how everything goes together? Reputation was a whole other area, really, that we talked about. You know, having a great reputation, your reputation precedes you. Remember those lessons? Well, that's how it goes with being a leader also. That reputation follows you. If you don't believe me, just ask some of the latest the confirmations that took place, the people that were confirmed for their particular office. They had Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., some other names out there that you might recognize that were just confirmed or in the process of being confirmed. Their reputation gets really strewn through the dirt, if you will. I mean, they're looking for any little thing. They go back to when these people were in high school or maybe even before. They go back to who their parents were, where they lived. They're going to find any amount of dirt that they can and throw it up there. I know one of them already, they brought up something that took place like 25 or 30 years ago when the guy was fresh out of high school. A lot of things changed during that period of time. Even scientists say that, the mind is not even really completely formed until you're like 25 or 26 years old, somewhere off in that area right there. So how could you possibly make a right decision before that? You're going to do some stupid stuff. I bet we all did, didn't we? I see some heads shaking out there. Oh, someone's shaking no. No. Okay. Well, anyway, and then applying leadership to the everyday situations. We have to be able to do this, and there's a whole section on that, all right? But that's some of the true value in becoming a leader. It's not only to lead others towards these goals, but it also helps you to stand up for what's morally correct. And positive leaders are responsible for all those who follow and for themselves, okay? They accept the responsibility. They accept what comes their way, and they don't throw it off on somebody else. All right. So we're still on page 171 now on what I have learned. We're looking over what we've been through on this last chapter. Now, being a positive leader will enable you to make a difference in the world around you. Being a positive leader will enable me to make a difference in the world around me. By determining what I would like to change, setting realistic goals, and developing a plan to build awareness, I can take specific steps toward improving issues that are important to me. I know a guy that he worked at a car dealership that I was very familiar with, and and I've been in management too in the car dealerships, but this particular person, he didn't even really want to be a manager and didn't care nothing about it. But there were a lot of things taking place with the sales force that was very oppressive and that was wrong. Just like I mentioned a minute ago, having to chase somebody around for 3 weeks trying to get your bonus that was promised to you, that day for something that was done, right? A goal achieved, so to speak. It's really degrading. But so things like that and some other things that were taking place and, just hardcore work hours and all. And so the opportunity was seen that becoming a manager, they might be able to have an effect on making it better for the salespeople, and in turn showing that it could be better for the dealership all in all. And this is how it is with, I'm using a car dealership for an example, but this is how it is with everywhere. It doesn't matter what type of company it is. I'm talking companies specifically, but it could be anything. It could be a school. It could be, a government office. It could be anything. And if you make things better, and when I say better, people have different ideas of what that is sometimes, but if you make things better to where it's available for people to grow, and where they know and understand that from the top down there's respect and concern and true respect and true care and concern. And they can look to the leaders and see, they look at the leaders and they see that of the company or the government or whatever, and they see that these individuals that are leading the way, we can look and see that their reputations are great. Everybody makes mistakes, remember, but the reputation in general is a great reputation. And you can see with what's being done, the subordinates or the lower level, whatever you want to call it, can look up and see that they can put trust in those leaders, that those leaders aren't going to want to harm them in any way or take advantage of them in any way or oppress and demean them in any way. And that's when things come together and they grow and everybody thrives. And there are places that you can read about, historical, even now, workplaces in some that people, they want to go there. That's their ambition, is to go and work at this one place because it's been shown to be so great for everyone. I remember when I'm from Arkansas, and in Arkansas is the headquarters of a little company called Walmart, and back in the 80s, I mean, this Walmart thing really didn't get going until in the 60s and 70s. It started having little stores pop up and everything, and then by the 80s, there were a lot of stores around. And the people that worked there, in fact, I wondered about the town I lived in. There was a guy that everyone figured would go to college and just be a brainiac, and you see him working at Walmart. He was working at Walmart full time, and then I saw him become like assistant manager, and that's as far as I know. I moved away, but he probably became manager and on. I mean, I know he became manager, but after that, I don't know what occurred. But what I do know is that in Arkansas, it was a well-known fact that if you were working for Sam Walton as a manager in one of his stores in the 80s, by the time 1990 got there, you were a millionaire. And you were working for this guy for, you were working at the Walmart for $8 an hour or whatever it was at the time, 40 hours a week, just a regular job. But one thing that you got along the way was stocks. You got these stocks all along the way. You just kept getting stock into the company. And then you had stock options, and then the stocks would split, and then split again, and you'd have double the amount of stocks and even more. And next thing you know, he created a lot of millionaires that were working for him and showed that loyalty. The loyalty in being part of something. Anyway, I'm not sure it's that way anymore, but when you can build a company with loyal members and workers, and they can see that you truly care, a company, a organization, anything like that, people can see if you care or not. And people can see also if, and of course he made a lot of money too. His whole family made a lot of money, but there is excess out here in this day and time. When you read of a company CEO that didn't even start the company, I mean, he's hired to run it, he's doing a great job and all that stuff, but really, $300 million a year as a paycheck is pretty stout. Now, anyway, it's not my place to judge that. It's just that when there's so many other things going on in the world, and so much that can be done, so many people that can be put to work, and that kind of spread out a little bit. I wonder what could be achieved by putting it back in and growing more and more and more. I don't know. It's just a thought, but anyway, moving on. So anyway, back to that last point there again. Being a positive leader will enable me to make a difference in the world around me. Remember, there's a ripple effect taking place with this whole thing. And by determining what I would like to change, setting realistic goals, developing the plan, I can take specific steps toward improving issues that are important to me. Turn over to page 168. And remember that ripple effect thing. We're going to be talking about that a little bit more as time goes on, at least the next few classes. But so think about it. Look at page 168. Think about it. Here is one more reason why learning to lead is valuable. As a leader, you can find satisfaction and purpose in helping others and making a difference in the world around you, and there's no shortage of ways in which you can be helpful. People often fail to take action even about things that concern them because they think they cannot make a difference or that the problem is too big. You know, it's raining outside. There's a lion outside my door. There's a mountain, and really it's just a molehill. Have you ever heard the saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step? And really, for those who have had to try to tackle something big, and it's just overwhelming. I mean, it just kind of threw you back, and you're like, man, there's no way, woe is me, you know? Well, once you take that first step, a lot of times you'll find that, you know, this isn't so bad after all. What was I worrying about, you know? That single step. But to accomplish anything, you have to first make an effort. The worst thing you could do is do nothing. In fact, if you do nothing, you'll just rot. There's a thing called atrophy. And that atrophy, you could have atrophy of the body, of the brain. You know, you can just sit there and literally do nothing. And that muscle never gets exercised. The heart muscle doesn't get exercised. The brain muscle doesn't get exercised. None of your muscles get exercised. Next thing you know, your brain is stiff, your heart is stiff, and your body's stiff. You know, what do? So this is where being a leader and utilizing your leadership skills can get the ball rolling. Keep in mind that leaders take the initiative. Leaders also motivate others to take notice of issues they might otherwise be unaware of. So let's read that again. Leaders also motivate others to take notice of issues they might not otherwise be unaware of. By using positive character skills like determination, steadfastness, and patience, you can build interest in a worthy cause and might even change a few lives in the process. Take a few minutes to think about some of the issues that concern you. For example, you might be concerned about violence, teen pregnancy, homelessness. List the issues that concern you on the lines below, then consider in what ways you can bring awareness to these issues in the school you attend or the community in which you live. So back up here for just a minute. Go to that first paragraph again. All right, so people, right in the middle, people often fail to take action, even about some things that concern them. Now, I admit that procrastination is something that I am quite aware of and have been a part of at some point in my life. But failing to take action, even about things that concern them, it's something that it's hard to explain, but this goes into a little bit of detail. It says because they think they can't make a difference or the problem is too big. You can make a problem too big, and I often talk about having an optimistic attitude, and remember, attitude is everything. And I often talk about having that optimistic attitude, but remember, we're not perfect. And from time to time, I think back on that, and I think I can look at historically, I can look back and say, you know, right here, I was having a hard time taking that first step because I thought the project was too big, was going to take too long, was going to take too much money, was going to take too much effort, was going to take too much this, too much of that. I needed to get some help. Where was I going to get the help? Where was I going to get the people? Where was I going to get, you know, and on and on and on. And so when that starts taking place, then it leads to that procrastination, which keeps putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because it's just too much to tackle. Interestingly enough, I have seen some of those things go bye-bye just by taking the first step. that single step forward and finding out, oh, well, this wasn't as bad as I thought. Oh, well, look, those people are willing to help. Oh, hey, well, I got the stuff on sale. It's not going to cost that much to do. Man, everything's falling in place. And so it's amazing what can take place when you take that single step towards accomplishing something. And if anybody's, weighed down with that, I encourage you to take that first step towards whatever it is. The peaceful solution does teach us that. And as we become teachers of the peaceful solution, we learn it more and more. And it's put before us lots of times. There's been many times that I know some of the other teachers that have been in front of huge crowds and everything. We've had some situations which you look out there and you're like, this stadium full of people, this auditorium full, and you're like, oh, man, and all of a sudden you start thinking about what could go wrong, what took place last time, did something go wrong, is the mic going to work, what if the mic doesn't work, I don't know, And so these things kind of build up and all, but it all goes away once you take the first step. I mean, your stomach might be churning and everything, and you're getting all worried about it and all that stuff, and the minute you step up to the podium and open your mouth and start talking about the peaceful solution, you just forget about it. It just goes away. So I know that taking that first step, that's what the peaceful solution taught me. Taking that first step is a valid thing. No matter what leads up to it and how bad you feel and how scared you are, if you will, you take that first step and it all goes away. So that helps you next time to be able to do the same thing. And pretty soon it's just kind of like, okay, well, I don't think we ever lose our nervousness, so to speak, a little bit, but that it's all going to be okay, right? And so to accomplish anything, you must first make an effort, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. All right, so that's kind of what I was trying to get across right there. Very important part of becoming a leader and of life itself. All right, so leaders also motivate others to take notice of issues they might not otherwise be aware of. And so when we say that, maybe someone has an issue that they're not aware that they have that issue, and instead of harassing them and screaming at them, calling them names and, taking advantage of them and so forth and so on, you can, like it says right there, motivate those to take notice that they might be able to do something about it. And by using positive character skills like determination, steadfastness, and patience, you can build interest in the worthy cause that might change some lives in the process. Okay, so we read that. If you look down at the bottom, it says, I can make a difference. And then it has the column there, issues that I'm concerned about. And then it has the column, what I would like to do about it. I challenge you to write down something there, in one or two or three issues that you might be concerned about, and then really sit and think, what can I do about it? What would I like to do about it? What would you do about it if you didn't have anything holding you back? If you didn't have the thought in your mind that, there's no way I could do it, it's too big, it's too far away, there's other people doing that, whatever. I mean, you could come up with all kinds of excuses, but think of what you would like to do about it if you were not being held back. And really, most of the time, the only thing holding you back would be yourself. I know. So, anyway, ways that I can build awareness. And then you go on to put some things down there on how you might be able to bring it to people's attention and so forth. So, okay. All right. Let's go back over there for a minute to 171. All right. Leaders can be found in all areas of life and are responsible for those who look to them for guidance and direction. That's the first point. Number 2, the deciding factor between a positive leader and a negative one is character. Positive character based on true moral values and personality combined with specific skills, drive, and ambition will result in positive leadership. That's number 2. Then number 3, the true value in becoming a leader is not only to lead others towards specific goals, but also to gain the self-assurance and stand up for what is morally correct, even if I must stand alone. Positive leaders are responsible not only for those who follow, but also for themselves too. And then number 4, that we just went over, being a positive leader will enable you to make a difference in the world around you. By determining what I would like to change, setting realistic goals, and developing a plan to build awareness, I can take specific steps toward improving issues that are important to me. And if you look over on the other page, page 170 for just a moment, go to page 170. I'm going to find something else real quick that we're going to go to. I just got to find where I put it. There we go. All right. All right, so page 170, just across there. Look there, it says, here are a few other rewards of being a positive leader. They're in bold. Here's a few things that go along with it that you might not even count it on. It gives your life purpose and direction. One of the things that we've seen in people that are severely depressed and that, just woe is me, I can't do anything right, nothing ever goes my way, my whole family's in ruin. I mean, you name it, just add it all on there, lots of drama, okay? One of the things we've seen is that they haven't realized that they have a purpose or a direction to go in life. They're just like, they don't think that them being the head of their family or part of their family is in any way their life's purpose or that it makes any difference or whatever, or they don't think that they have any purpose in life by going to their particular job and being a great example towards others. They don't understand it. But along the way, as you learn the peaceful solution, as you practice the peaceful solution, as you look around you and you see the differences and you see all those around that are also practicing the peaceful solution, whether they're perfect or not, and you might even have a little disagreement with them from time to time or whatever. But I can tell you this, the people that I see in this auditorium right now, no matter what differences there's been between each other, between me or anyone, the bottom line is that none of us do anything, detrimental to the other person if we could possibly help it. I don't think any of us would do that on purpose at all. We might accidentally, but, in looking at the things we do, we could go back and, like the peaceful solution teaches us, look at what we've done, go back, try to fix the situation, apologize, determine never to do it again, and, leaving yourself that little room to grow again. But it gives your life purpose and direction. So if you don't have that right now, dig into this peaceful solution. It'll give you that. Also, you can be of service to others, being a positive leader, learning to teach the peaceful solution. You can be of service to others, and there's no greater goal ever than being of service to others. That's really what life is all about, not them being of service to you. Hey, if the whole goal in life was to have a bunch of people being of service to you, there's a lot of people in Hollywood and a lot of extremely rich people that did not find their happiness, if you will. They did not find their purpose and direction in life by having all that money and having people serve them. It did not help them, and many of them commit suicide. Their lives are in ruin. They have so much drama in their lives. Why? Well, it's because it might be possible they didn't learn to be of service to others. Not saying that all people are like that. I'm just saying those that have taken their lives and done those things, they haven't seen this yet right here. Anyway, also you can bring awareness to others about important issues. These are some of the rewards that you might not even think about working to become a positive leader. And right there, that picture right there, it says leaders reach down to pull others up. How true it is. All right, well, we're finishing up on page 171. You can test your knowledge on the next couple pages. There is a poem there. I call it a poem, but right on page 175, you can read and do the student post-assessment, if you like, and a little crossword puzzle. And be ready for lesson plan 5, page A is where we will start on Sunday, 2/16/25. That's 2/16/25. And there's one other thing that reminds me of that I want to do here. I forgot to look through the open door. But if you look back on page 171 for a minute on what I've learned, there's 2 open doors there that have been opened to us in learning how to be a leader and learning the peaceful solution. It says a leader has the vision and conviction that a dream can be achieved. He inspires and motivates others to help him achieve it. And that's the piece from the peaceful solution. I'm sure that's a quote that our author, something that he said. I know that's how he was, definitely. So our next class, Sunday, 2/16/25 at 5:30 p.m. I look forward to seeing everybody there again. I think I'll probably be teaching. We'll see. All right. Thank you for coming.